Greetings and welcome to this whole new episode of Let's Create Something with Trapcode Tao, and today we're gonna create these old school balls, and I don't know why, but these were all over the place when I was a kid, and I don't see them anymore, so looking at them reminds me of childhood, and basically just googled this to get a reference, this kind of reference, so we get kind of a bumpy texture here, and stripes and uneven stripes. So let's see how we can do that with Trapcode Tao. It's gonna kind of be a two-part tutorial. Sorry. And in the first part, we're gonna learn how to create the material and how to light it up, and in the second part, we're gonna look at how we can animate that using what we've created. So let's go ahead, and I'm gonna delete this and I'm gonna start a new. So I'm just gonna keep this because it's my equirectangular SIBL image. So let's create a new comp. Let's call this Tao tricolor balls 3, because I made 2 other ones. And let's create a new solid. Let's call it Tao, and let's make it any color, it doesn't matter. And let's get in the effect panel. Why isn't my audio there? And let's apply Tao on there, and let's shut off the generated path, and let's hit Control Shift Alt L so we can create a light, and we're gonna call it Tao Sphere, because we're gonna just start by preparing our material on a sphere. It's just an easy way to set it up visually, and even if we're gonna apply that on anything else, but let's set it up on a sphere. So let's make this sphere right at the center of our comp. Control Alt Shift Y, create a new null, hit P, make it 3D, copy the position, paste it here, right click, get in the transform, auto orient, make sure it's set to off, and right away we can get in the rendering settings, set the shader to smooth, and also make sure that in the pass from Tao lights that the size from radius is checked, so then we can quickly twice tap on A and increase its radius like so. Alright, pretty cool. So let's create our material. Let's go ahead and create a new composition. So Control N, we're gonna make this 500 by 500, and we're gonna call this normal edit, and right in there we're gonna create a new solid. So Control Y, fractal, because we're gonna apply a fractal noise to that. So let's fetch it from over here, fractal noise, bring it on here, and let's try to keep it simple, not lose too much time on this. So first thing, we can get in the evolution options and change the random seed so we get something entirely different from the default settings, and get under the sub settings, twirl this on the side there, and increase the sub influence so we get more details in there, and add some complexity, and let's keep it like this for the moment. And on top of that, let's add an adjustment layer, and I've made a preset for this, but it's basically simply the colorama effect. So let's apply this on that, and it's just a colorama with this output cycle, which is the colors used in treating normal map materials. So I've inverted it, but this doesn't need to be there, and of course this is just to make sure that it's all grayscale, but it doesn't need to be there as well. So we got this texture map, and we can make it smaller, so let's scale it down. So let's make something like that, and maybe we can set that to spline, and let's get back in here and let's add our composition there. So it's smaller, but with the it doesn't matter. Let's shut it off, we don't need to see it. Let's apply it on our Tao. So let's get in the textures right there. And let's set it not in the color texture but in the normal map. So let's set this normal edit, and that's we got some polar problems here. So let's rotate our sphere. We can make it -90, so we're looking at it from this angle. And as you can see here, we kind of had a seam here, which is not ideal for if we want to look at it from all around. So how do we fix that? We want to keep it procedural. We want to keep our fractal only in one place. So let's make sure it's all seamless in the way it's done. So let's make this composition. Let's double its height and width. So let's make it 1000 by 1000. I'm gonna hit Control Shift Y on this solid and make sure that it's to click on this to make it the same as the comp size, and do the same on the adjustment layer there. So we are back to this thing now. It's twice as large, twice as high, and I'm gonna bring this in a new comp, and I'm gonna start with the one size. So H for horizontal. Let's make this. Let's uncheck the log aspect ratio, and let's make a width of 500. Alright, so we have this now. Our comp is spilling off there. We can align it onto this side or this side. So if we align it on this side, we have all this whole area here that is outside. But if you think about it, what comes here is connects to that, and what we need is what comes here to connect to that here. So we can simply assume that it's okay to Control D to duplicate this comp there, and let's bring this over here. So our middle part here is gonna connect, is gonna go to the other tip. We can simply align it like that. So this point that was there is now there. So now we can apply a linear wipe on this one here on top, and let's shut the other one underneath just so we can understand. We want to keep just the edge part here on this side. We don't want this whole area here, and we want to feather it a little bit. So now if we look at that, we have our little blending point here, which is not much of a worry, but now our comp can connect seamlessly horizontally. So that's one thing that is pretty cool, and we can do the same vertically now. So let's do that. Let's bring this one, this patch up work that we've done here, and this is the vertical. So let's once again have it on the height. So let's make it, let's get back to 500 by 500. We're gonna do the same lazy trick here, and we're gonna duplicate it. So duplicate, and we're gonna align it down there, and we're gonna apply a linear wipe on this here, and let's make sure we see what we do. So this angle now needs to be set to 0, not 0, but 180, and we just need this part down below. Of course, we're gonna feather it, or else we still have our seam, which is what we want to get rid of. So that should be okay. In principle, our stuff should be totally seamless now. So let's look at it. Let's look at this. Now it's not seamless because we still have this normal edit back in here. So we see our seam here. We see it doesn't connect, doesn't work. So let's, our last one is this one now. So let's just, we just need it to be called normal. So let's hold down Alt while this comp is selected here, and let's bring this so we replace it. And what the hell? It doesn't change anything. Ah, it would be wise to hit the Control Alt and front slash, because as you just saw there, I thought that I messed it up, but no. In reality, it was still remnants in the cache memory, so I had to purge it, and now it's okay. I think that we have our seamless texture, and it's totally fine, which is one thing that I'm happy with. Now this might be considered a problem to some, which is the fact that it kind of meets up weirdly at its south and north pole, where it kind of merges in a singular point. I'm gonna keep it that way, because one thing that is really oh yeah, totally forgot one thing. Also, when we map some textures on a sphere or normal map or anything that we want to map on a sphere, it's got to be a ratio of 1 to 2 or 2 to 1, or it's got to be rectangular, like it's got to be twice as large as its height. So now we can simply put 2 here. It's going to look more proportional now. Either we do that, or either we do it like we have discom, something that that is a ratio of 2 to 1. But I'd rather have my texture comp as a square. It's easier to not get confused by proportions and all. So that's something that we can also make sure that this number is always half of this number, and we can basically double up our size there. So let's get back to 1 and 2. No, it's 2 and 1. Or also we could like keep it 1 to 1, but have our fractal stretched differently. If we get back in here, like we could have this uniformly scaling like that to as a counter measure, but I'd rather keep it that way for the moment. So it's gonna work if we have 2 to 1 ratio here. One thing that we can do, and I don't know about this darker spot here, but one thing we can do if we want to cheaply fix this polar thing, but I don't know that it's that much of a problem, but I'm gonna show you nevertheless. So let's once again take our last step of composition for our this thing here, and what we can do is add Skybox from metal, and let's bring this here, and this is gonna help us like get this from a 3D source to equi-rectangular, but it's not gonna fix exactly the problem, because it's gonna now have it like this, like in the middle. But what we have here on the top and bottom edge is kind of how we want it deformed. So what we can kind of cheat our way in, and I'm gonna call this normal equi. We can cheat this back by having our normal once again on top of this. So now it's higher. So let's not on the X but on the Y, let's have it down, so we have it like this, and let's just lose the top and the bottom of this. So let's add more linear wipes on this, so over here, and we want to make this at 0, so we kind of keep in this deformed bottom here, but we lose the middle, if you get the idea here, and we can blend it with the feather. Once again, it's not gonna be orthodox or scientific or like it's a very cheap way of doing it, but it's kind of a way that it's all procedural, and we can still change the fractal setting in one place and have it all like that. But one thing to keep in mind about that, so let's, now we still have our normal here, let's bring our normal equi, so this map that we did, and let's now make sure that now we've got some rectangle stuff, so we have to set it back of a ratio of 1 to 1, and let's refresh. So that's what we're gonna have now. And if I look on top, we kind of have fixed our polar issue now. So this is something that we still have this dark spot that I'm not sure how to exactly fix. But if you can understand now, if you ever want to get rid of these polar coordinate issues, uh, you can do that, and it totally works. But keep in mind that if we do that now, we cannot use the. It won't work to double these numbers to get smaller texture details. It will just have like the deformation in it. It'll make something like that, and it's not ideal for if you want to like if as soon as we fix the polar stuff this way around, then we're stuck with sending it at a ratio of 1:1. But that's a totally valid way to quickly and cheaply fix that as an issue of the polar. So let's quickly look at the difference. Set it back at 0. So this is our polar area with the equi, and this is without it. So I'm not that worried. Like it's not that much of a problem for me to have it like that sometimes, because I'd rather have the possibility of changing the details. And also, of course, you might want to have it twice as big overall for this, because it'll end up like 500 by 250, and I think it would be more ideal to have it twice this size natively. So this one would need to be 1000 by 1000, meaning that this one would need to be 2000 by 2000. Let's not get crazy here. Let's keep it that way, and I think that it's pretty okay like that. It was just gonna make it less of a merging problem on our polar coordinates. So let's keep on going. So we've got our normal bumping here set up, and we can of course tone it down, because now it's set all the way to 100. So let's tone it down, and let's create our stripe texture. So let's create a new comp, and let's make this one 500 by 500. I'm going to call it text, and it's going to be nothing like the normal texture. It's going to be stripes. So let's create a new solid on there, and let's call it stripes. Not that it matters. And let's apply a basic ramp on there, and let's apply a colorama, and that's just so we can easily have some 3 colored stripes custom. And let's set that to RGB, so we have 3 equally distributed stripes. We want to make this one white, because this is going to be the middle stripe, and this one is already the right color, but let's desaturate it a little bit, and let's make this one red, and it's a little bit too saturated for my taste. It's going to be more close to rubber blue. So that's our basic texture. We can start with that. Let's get back in our main comp, and let's bring this in here. So let's bring it over there, and let's get down in the texture, and let's apply that. So I don't think that it's set up correctly, but no worries. Let's get back in our text, and we simply need to do here is get in the input phase, and as soon as we just make it 180 here, which is gonna move it halfway, it's gonna make our stripe at the center. So let's hit Control Alt front slash, and now we have it at where we want it. So I think it should be much more much narrower than that. So now we can simply bring those in at approximately the same distance, and that'll make our middle stripe thinner, like that. All right, we kind of have our basic setup there, ready to go. Let's light it up with custom SIBL. Oh, one thing that we can do here, if we want to fix the aliasing on the texture, so now it's set to nearest, let's set it to linear, so it's gonna make it smoother on our stripe here, and perhaps we don't need it to be that strong. And now this, since we can't really decrease it, we can get back in this. Let's get back in our edit, and let's try to make it smaller here. So in the transform, let's make it smaller here, and let's get back, force refresh, and we have something that's a little more close to it. So we want to get this kind of rubbery and bumpiness feel to it. So that's something that we're getting closer to there. Let's light it up. So I have this equirectangular 5000. It's not that high res, but let's bring this to a new comp, and this, we're gonna call it reflection. And this reflection, let's create a new comp from it, and let's call it diffusion. And this is gonna be something that we're gonna go in the composition setting and lock it lock the aspect ratio to decrease its size. So let's set this second value, the height, to 200, and we're gonna want to also adjust the size. So Control Alt F. It's the same as if we do fit to comp. So that's what we want to do, and we want to fetch in the fast blur, put it on there, and we want to make sure to repeat the edge pixels, and let's increase the blur there until we get some pretty much diffusion. And this, like, it's really sharp. We can also add a little bit of blur here, and this will simulate some blurry reflections, which I think we have in rubber materials. So let's do that, and let's get back here, and let's bring in our reflection and our diffusion composition that we've just created. So let's bring them over here. By default, our reflection comp is pretty huge compared. It's not that good. Ideally, it could be bigger to get more detail in our reflection and everything, but let's start off with that. So let's get in the material and lighting, and let's get twirled on the image-based lighting here. We're not going to use a built-in. We're going to use our own, the one I shot myself in the cemetery of Montreal. And let's add the reflection. So that's quite too much at first. Maybe you want to tone this down, but we don't have any diffusion. So this is a dark with no color sphere. This is not fractal displacement. This is our texture, our custom texture, that's kind of making this material bumpiness, which is really cool, I think. And let's set our diffusion to our diffusion comp. So that's gonna bring us a little bit more light. Let's increase it so it increases the light coming on our material here, which is exactly what we want to do. Let's save that, and now we can, depending on what we think looks best, we can mess around with the Fresnel, which will make it look different. I think that, like, this is more for totally glassy stuff, and if we want materials that have kind of reflection but not that much, I think we can bring this to a higher value, and that's what we get now. And of course we don't have that much detail in in the good old texture here. I think we could add more sides to this. Let's try it. Let's make it 80. Will it change it? No, it's because our our texture is small. It's not that huge, so it's not that detailed. But it's not. You know that you can double the size if you want to get more details in there. I don't need to tell you that. What we can do is add some scratches on there. I think that it might be fun to get, like, these balls get damaged over time. They get bitten by dogs and they get smashed. They bounce around everywhere. So we might need to add some scars to it. So let's do that, and let's do it very quickly. So let's go to our normal here, and let's get in here just before we blend it with the Skybox, and let's have nothing selected, and let's simply grab this. I'm gonna create simple shape layer on top of that, and we're gonna make it another color than blue because it's kind of hard to see. So let's make it red. Where's the red? There you go. And I did not want to create a new point there. Let's hit V so we can select that. And no, it won't let me select it. Let's see there. Can I want to pick up my point there, and I want to hit Alt. No. Let's grab the pen tool and let's get in there. I want to make sure that I have the pad, and let's select that. Alright, come over here. I'm gonna hit Alt to get this icon here. Yeah, and I want to hit Alt this so I can make this kind of shape with it. Just kind of a scarry shape like that. Alright, and on this I'm gonna simply apply a ramp to it, and I'm gonna take these points here that are very hard to see at the moment, and I'm gonna just angle them so they are giving me this kind of a 3D aspect to the scar. And then I'm gonna add the normal preset, like the colorama combination there, so I have something like that on here, and I'm gonna simply pre-comp that with all its effect on. So move all the attributes, and this is gonna be the scar. So we have a scar. Let's duplicate it, let's rotate it, and let's offset it right there so we kind of have a, and let's make another one. Let's scale it down and rotate it once again so we have I don't think it would be wise to do it like that. I'm gonna keep them separated. Alright, so we have this there. This doesn't seem to be working that much, so let's hit refresh. And where are these nice scars that we've created? Let's rotate around so we can see them. So it's gonna be rotate on Z, and there's our nice scar that we've created on the material that we have. So that's pretty cool. Good stuff. We have another one down there. So that's some way that we can do it, and of course perhaps it's not angled the right way, so let's get inside the scar, and let's remove the invert there. So we're gonna try the other way around and just look at how it makes it, if it makes it more doesn't make any kind of difference, noticeable difference, but I think it's best like that. So let's keep it like that. And what else could we do to add yet more details to that? I don't know. Let's pick up the normal equi there. And let's create a new comp out of that. So we're gonna have this inside, and this one, let's call it spec. So we're gonna like make let's bring a tint effect on this, and let's just make sure that we understand what's going on. So I'm gonna create a new solid and I'm gonna make it white, and I'm gonna get back in this. I'm gonna bring in the spec composition down there, and I'm gonna just test out the stuff by going here under specular map. I'm gonna add a specular map, and it doesn't make any difference. I'm gonna refresh just to make sure. So that means that white is nothing. That means white is all the spec, and black is none of it. So let's tint this, and let's tone it down and maybe add some levels to that. So that's gonna make and sort that some of the areas gets let's refresh, less of the reflection, and now we're gonna test it out to make sure that it makes a difference, and it doesn't seem to make that much of a difference. None and with. So let's make it more drastic. Let's look at the difference. None with, none with. We're canceling a little bit of the let's increase the reflection so we can see more of what it does. So right here, if we would have this very high, then oops, not the normal, but the spec. So yeah, the spec, it's gonna come and like make it a bit less reflective on certain area based on our normal. So it's gonna make it less like unreal. Like it's gonna make it more detailed. So that's one other thing that we can do. And on top of all that, oh yeah, let's get in the text. And these are like, I think they're way too sharp for my taste. We want to get some like some unevenness here. How can we do that? Let's bring in some turbulent displace. Let's try to bring some turbulent displace on top of that. So we want the size to be much more decreased than that, and we or is it the other way around? We want the size to be small. Yeah, like we want to get it more like uneven like that. And is there a way that we can change this to make it less of a yeah, I think that if we do it like this, it'll make it more it's gonna add just 1 degree of detail on top of everything. but this needs to be subtle. And we can increase the complexity, so something like that may seem a little bit more rugged on the exterior, but then again, it's maybe something that you don't want it to be applied that much. So can we tone it down? If we, I know I'm doing this fast, but I just made an adjustment layer and cropped the effect. I cut the effect from the other layer and pasted on here, so I can tone it down. It seems just to be a little bit too much here, so that's more like it. It's we can make it something around 70, and it's gonna make it not that sharp of an edge there. So that's something else, to add more details on that. And other than that, like, this color is all plain and all, and like it would be fun if we could see some difference in shades, like if we had some darker spots, darker areas. So what we can do is add one more layer on top of that, and we're gonna add a cell pattern. And this is not an effect I recommend because it's only 8-bit and it's not very nice, but we can enable tiling, and that'll make it tile. We can set it to multiply, and of course change the contrast, and maybe change it to something else. And I really don't like this that much, but and then let's add a fast blur to that. And just make sure that we don't have too much of a repetition pattern there. Something like this should be a little bit better. So let's get back and let's refresh. So now we have some areas that are a little bit darker, and it makes it overall more interesting to look at, I think. And then we can like increase it back. I don't think it's dirty, and this I don't know what it changes, but now we can make it more reflectant or less depending on what you're trying to get. And now our background is pretty big, and that's because it's simply our reflection here. So let's turn it off, and let's see how we can have like a nice background shot from the same image that we're using to light up our object. Let's see how we can have a little bit more control. So our reflection here, let's make a new comp out of that. So let's bring this over here, and let's call it BG. So that's gonna be our background, and this background, in fact, let's make it 1080 by 1080. So we're gonna get back to this, and let's add a new solid in this composition. So let's add a horizon. We're gonna call it horizon because we're gonna apply horizon, Trapcode horizon. And this is really convenient to we can set up our reflection and map in there. So we're gonna get back to kind of exactly that, and let's create a new camera. So Control Alt Shift C, and we're gonna make it 50 millimeters by default, and let's create a new null just to make it pink and call it dolly. So I like to do that, make it 3D. So that's one thing that we can do to change the angle. So now let's say I want to look at this angle here. It's a nice corridor. I like this going back there, so I'm gonna bring this to 90 degree, and I'm also gonna fix the tilt there. Maybe it needs to be minus, but if it's 0 it's not totally straight, is it? Needs to be set to minus 0.5, and also this to 88.5. I'm gonna have it nice and centered there, and also I want to see a little bit more, so I'm gonna hit Control on my camera, Control Shift Y to get in the options, and I'm gonna increase the angle of view here, so I reveal more of what's around there. So that's a little bit more like it, but we're still in the same normal angle. I've just zoomed in. I just changed the angle of view. So let's get back in our comp here, and let's bring in BG. Let's bring in under the Tao there. So that's what we have. It fits the lighting. Once again, I'm gonna save, and I'm gonna add a camera on there. So 50 millimeters. Let's start with the default. I'm gonna add an all, make it pink, call it dolly, make it 3D, connect the camera to it, and now if I move that around, it won't change any. Like, it will change the camera for the ball, but it won't change in the background. So what I'm gonna do there, I'm gonna get in the background composition, and I'm gonna toss it here on the side here, so I can see both at the same time. I want to see my my Tao ball comp here, and at the same time I want to see that. I'm gonna connect all these settings from the camera and dolly, so to make sure that everything I do here is the same, except the angle of view. So it's gonna keep, this one is gonna keep the angle of view wide. So I'm gonna hit P and R and P and R, and I'm like gonna set this back to 0, like to make sure that it's all like it's in here that we're gonna change it, not in there. So let's make it back to the default on here, and let's, like, I'm hitting P to reveal the position, then Shift and A to reveal the point of interest, and still holding Shift, I'm gonna hit R to reveal the position. So now I have all this twirl down here, P, Shift A, holding Shift still, R. So I have all of these, they are the same values. I'm simply gonna hit Alt and connect all of those. So let's try to do this quickly. X rotation, Y rotation to Y rotation, Z rotation to Z rotation, and let's make sure that it's all connected to the right setting. I'm at the orientation now, it's okay. X and Y and Z. Alright. But now, oh yeah, this Control Shift Y. Let's change the angle of view on this one. So now, if I rotate the dolly here, let's see that. Oh yeah, it rotates in my image. So let's set it there. We want to set it to 88.5, and what was it, like 0.5 here to fix the tilt, minus 0.5 to fix the rotation tilt, and an angle of view of 80 will be, and now I don't need this to be open anymore. So that's, and I'm gonna hit Control Alt Shift front slash once again to make sure that SIBL updates as it gets its light from the right direction now. So that's cool. We have the camera, we have the background, we have the SIBL, and just to make sure, like, I'm gonna make a temporary new solid in here to put underneath there, and horizon. Let's bring this on there, and we could have it here. I mean, let's make it the reflection. But what would happen if, like, we don't have any control with the angle of view and we're pretty close on our reflection map? Just the only reason why I'm separating both, but keeping the same rotation and everything linked in terms of the cameras. But yeah, that's why I'm doing that, so we can get rid of that. But we're sure that we're in the same angle and all. So that's how I created this kind of rubber bouncing ball. And in the next tutorial, we're gonna, like, in the next part of this, I'm gonna make it two-part because it's already been 45 minutes speaking about this. It's gonna get pretty long in a whole. So let's continue on the second part, and that's where we'll see how we're gonna animate a bunch of these dropping, and how we can make it loop pretty easily. So see you right away in the next part. Thank you very much for watching.